course. And so IDS5 also, this is like a more DACA. So it reflects like for the Laccd students, and we're helping more resources, resources for the DACA students.
Well, thank you. Again, welcome. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your student activism. There are several trustees here who began their careers in life as student activists. So we know you're doing good work and good things to get your student body involved. And it's not only valuable for them as a community, but it's also as well for you in your future here. So congratulations, welcome, and thank you again for leading us in the flag salute.
Thank you. New work on Dusty Beres. And I appreciate it for this first day.
All right, excellent.
I'm having a pizza with me.
All right, I love it. I love it. Sounds good. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda or order of business today. Chancellor, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No, sir. Board President Vettis, members of the board, good afternoon. No, sir. The agenda is presented as is and ordered, so no changes, sir.
Okay. Colleagues, are there any objections to this order of business as presented by the Chancellor? Okay, seeing none, we'll deem the agenda approved, and we'll move on to the first item, which is approval of minutes. Colleagues, we have regular board minutes and closed session minutes, regular board minutes for August 18th and regular board and closed session minutes for August 4th. Can I ask, we'll take these items together. Can I ask for a second and a motion, or a second motion and a second to approve the items?
Move approval.
Motion by Trustee Moreno, seconded by Trustee Fong. Any objections to this vote, colleagues? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. With all members of the body present, we'll deem them approved unanimously. And we'll move forward to reports from representatives of employee organizations. So is there any member of the resource table that would like to be recognized at this time to make comments to the board? If you can raise your hands, and we'll move you over into the participant panelist section here. So I see a couple, let's do resource table first, and then we'll do college presidents right after that. So I see at least one of each that have their hands up so far. So if we can bring them into our panelists so they can speak, sir. Okay.
You should be joining us shortly. Joanne Waddell and President Limbaugh so far are in the room.
Okay, excellent. So let's kick this off with Joanne Waddell from our faculty guild.
Hi, Joanne, would you please unmute?
Yes, thank you. I need another year on Zoom, I guess. Universal masking, universal vaccinations, improved ventilation, social or physical distancing, contract tracing, testing in the schools, sanitizing surfaces, quarantine protocol. This list is no doubt familiar to you by now. It's the list of tools in our toolbox, as they say, to combat the coronavirus. I participated in a town hall with Dr. Murthy, Surgeon General Dr. Murthy, yesterday, and for all his expertise and experience, it all comes down to those 8 things. At this moment in time, I can say, having talked to my colleagues on campuses, that there's nothing more important than health and safety. Article 9 in our contract is proof of that, as are the several sections in our return to work MOU that have yet to be implemented. We're not there yet, although today's agenda item CC3 is a step in the right direction. Clearly, faculty are not here for the money. We're here because we believe in public education for the greater good. And to provide that education, we need safe and clean working environment. Again, CC3 is a step in that right direction, but it certainly isn't the last step we need to take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the resource table would like to address the board?
We also have Manny Rangel in the room.
Okay, Manny, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, trustees, chancellor, staff, students. My name is Manny Rangel with SEIU Local 99. I want to start by emphasizing the need to hire full-time maintenance and operations staff to provide a clean and sanitary learning and working environment for students and staff. We cannot continue to staff our custodians at casual inattention or at moderately dingy cleanliness levels. Clean campus is the only way to make sure students and staff are safe and feel safe. We all know we need to hire more permanent full-time custodians in LACCD. And as always, we're here to willing to work with you to get this done at any time. I also want to emphasize the need for equitable wages for SEIU Local 99 members. Our members make up some of the lowest wage workers in LACCD, and in comparison to similar types of workers in the community colleges in the region. We try to work with you to fix this wage disparity in negotiations, but you would not move past $0. $0 will not fix wage inequities. It only perpetuates a system that continues to place less value on the lowest paid workers. I want to make sure all of you know that workers are tired of it. Workers are willing to fight back. We ask you all to join our fight to make sure everyone knows where you stand on this wage equity issue. So we're looking for as much support as possible from all of our labor partners, from students who are directly affected by the lack of cleanliness in the colleges. We also need our leadership to stand up and to voice their support for it or their opposition to it, so we can all see who's standing in the way of wage equity for our lowest paid workers. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other members of the resource table would like to speak?
Next in the room is President Limbaugh.
Okay, so then let me go ahead and jump to college presidents and colleagues. We know in the Chancellor's report, we have reports submitted by the college presidents, but if there was anything that was not included there that presidents would like to announce, please do so now. And President Limbaugh from West Los Angeles College, I see your hand up and you have the floor now.
Thank you, President Veras, Chancellor Rodriguez, members of the board. In what can be only termed as unprecedented time in our history, I think it's important to always identify things to celebrate. And I have two late-breaking items that did not make the Chancellor's report that I would just like to share with you all so we can all do a small hallelujah that things are moving ahead. The first is our dental hygiene program. As you know, it's the most successful baccalaureate program in the state. We just received approval from the Dental Accreditation Board to almost double our cohort from 42 to 70 students, and we're adding 35 more students this spring. So I think that's a very important statement about the ability of the program to move students into high-wage jobs. And the second thing is we got an announcement this morning that West just received a $200,000 NSF grant for a partnership between our math and computer science faculty to improve students' transition from algebra to calculus using computer programming to aid the learning of pre-calculus concepts and skills. And that's a really important partnership that our faculty have developed. And I'm very proud to announce these two items of news to you all. So thank you.
Thank you, President Limbaugh. Any other college presidents would like to make announcements now? Okay, see none. And just to remind everybody, their full reports are available in the Chancellor's report. So, okay, with that, we're going to move forward to the public comment period of the meeting. Are there any persons signed up to address the Board of Trustees regarding regular agenda items? I will remind the public that there is a portion in the agenda for items not on the regular agenda where they can speak later in the meeting, but this is for the immediate business in front of us for regular agenda items.
Chair Veras, nobody officially signed up for both sections, non-agenda and agenda items.
Okay, let me provide the opportunity for attendees if they wish to, they can raise their hand, virtual hand, I should say, and speak now or hold your peace here because we'll close this item in just about a minute here. Okay, seeing none, colleagues, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. I will open it one last time for items not on the agenda, just to be sure if anybody does pop in a little later. But we're going to move forward to 2 resolutions. First, I do want to, and Trustee Buona, if you're available here at this point, typically for the month of September going into October, we celebrate Mexican American Latino Culture Month, and this month, as opposed to doing sort of the standard bearer resolution, we have a number of activities that are planned in one of the board special committees that the trustee chairs. And if he's stepped away from the meeting here, Chancellor, I wonder if you could step in and talk about the upcoming program and activities that will take the place of a resolution here in terms of recognizing Mexican Independence Day, Latin American Independence Day for that matter. But there's a number of speakers and programs that are planned that I wanted to acknowledge in the place of the resolution. So if we can, if Trustee Buona's logging on, if not, Chancellor, can you, he may also do that later in the next section of reports, but, oh, there you are, Trustee Buona. So I wanted to indicate that in the place of a resolution, we were talking about a program and activity that has been headed by a couple of committees, one that deals with Mexican, Central American, Latino student affairs, as well as our DACA committee that has quite a bit of activity here. So if we can do a quick notice to the public in place of the resolution here, and I will also tag that as a little bit of the report and recommendations from the board here. So Chancellor, Trustee Buona.
Dr. Berlin, may I proceed? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Thank you, President Vettis. Yes, members of the board, good afternoon, and members of the public. We are cordially inviting everyone to join us for a joint meeting between the Chancellor's Advisory Committee for Mexican American, Central American, and Latino Affairs and the DACA Immigration Task Force on September the 16th, El Día de la Independencia, 200 years of Mexican independence, from 2 to 4 p.m. It's a joint program in which we will seek to do several things. One is to invite our Mexican consulate to join us. We've got some incredibly important joint services and activities between our district and the consulate. Secondly, we will be uplifting an MOU with the Universidad Autónoma de Zacatecas. That is a joint partnership educational agreement between our entities. And then lastly, we will be inviting a photojournalist, Antonio Wallace Turok, to LACCD for a guest lecture. He will be speaking about the Mexican diaspora, and in particular focusing on Chiapas and whatnot. Professor Turok or comes to us from Oaxaca, Mexico, and will be also showing, having a show at the Mexican consulate in the month of October. So thank you, President Vettis. We invite everyone. You'll see more information on that. Again, September 16th, 2 to 4 p.m. Joint meeting open to the public. So Dr. Bola, did I miss anything important, sir?
No, I think September 16th is very important. I say it every year. You know, this is where our region was, you know, here in Los Angeles, we were able to get rid of, you know, the independence from the Spanish Empire, which then led to the liberation of the mission system here in our region. And that was important early in the 19th century. As a Chicano Studies faculty member, I have an obligation to say that.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So again, colleagues, in place of our past efforts of a resolution, there's an active program, which I'm really proud to hear and have that be part of our efforts here. So, so colleagues, before us in the resolution section, there is one, and it's the adoption of revised 2021 calendar. We've revised this once to attempt to accommodate DC advocacy work. And because of the rise of the Delta variant, it's determined that we're going to make that modification. It also is attempting to work around any religious holidays that are also near that time to provide a little bit more space working base for all of our staff, faculty, trustees, et cetera. With that, you'll see the noted changes returning back to the September 22nd meeting date. And I'll ask for a motion in a second to approve this calendar change.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Wellness, seconded by Trustee Fong. Would do a roll call vote, please?
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item passes. We'll move on to reports and recommendations from the board. In the introduction of the resolutions, we've stolen a little bit of the thunder from at least one of the committees here, but we have a few that are listed here. So let me start off with Trustee Vela, if you can summarize the proceedings of the Budget and Finance Committee that you chaired on August 18th.
Yes. So today you will be approving our final budget for the Los Angeles Community College District. So it's a really big deal. I definitely want to thank our CFO, Jeanette Gordon, Chancellor Rodriguez, the members of the Budget Committee, who really were absolutely stellar in their questions and, partnering with all our stakeholders in order to ensure that our budget came and was being able to be discussed at each budget meeting. I also want to thank our stakeholders such as our staff, our faculty, who were also present and ensured that all the right questions were asked on behalf of the benefit of the students. And I think we did really well. And in particular, I want to thank Trustee Fong and his leadership in the Legislative and Public Affairs Committee. There was a lot of kind of crisscrossing between the two committees when it came to this year's budget. Overall, the college presidents also did a fantastic job in managing the HER fund. So you'll see it all today in the final budget. So I'm really excited, and I'm sure you all got a copy of it, but I don't want to say much more than that. I'm just very happy that this is coming to the board, and I expect all the board to be happy and approve it today. So.
Okay. Excellent. Next, if I can ask Trustee Fong to provide a summary of the proceedings of the Legislative and Public Affairs Committee.
Thank you so much, President Vettis, and thank you so much to my colleagues, Trustees Vela, Trustee Hoffman, for a robust Legislative and Public Affairs Committee meeting on August 18th. We had updates from the federal level. The Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor and Pensions received an instruction for $726 billion to allocate for tuition-free community college, increase in maximum Pell Grant awards, and also funding for workforce development, job training, and other student supports. At the local level for LACCD, thank you so much to the Chancellor, to my colleagues, to all of you, to Ms. Velas and the presidents and the president's teams at each of the colleges. LACCD received 5 community project funding grants in the fiscal year 2022 funding bill, which will provide funding for a variety of programs, including workforce development, student support services, and basic needs pilot programs. On the Senate side, Senators Padilla and Feinstein announced that they are advancing several critical LACCD funding requests to the Senate Appropriations Committee, including $7.5 million for the Students LA Metro Pass program that Trustee Vela and a number of colleagues have worked on for many, many years. And hopefully we can have some good news on that very soon. But our total LACCD Senate Appropriations request to Senators Padilla and Feinstein is over $11 million. And then to touch base on the HER funds that was referenced by Trustee Vela, Department of Education announces $3.2 billion in additional HER funds, and LACCD is receiving over $11 million for HER funds to our district. At the state level, has been referenced, it was a robust budget year. The legislature and administration came to an agreement on the final budget package on July 12th, and it represents a historic investment in California's community colleges with significant increases in the Prop 98 guarantee. There's also 5% for COLA, funding for growth, investments in strong workforce, and funding to support LGBTQ plus students. And thank you so much to Trustee Vela for his leadership and efforts for $10 million for the development of a LGBTQ plus pilot program, to Trustee Hoffman for her leadership around student support and basic needs, and addressing food and housing security, and to all my colleagues for all your work and efforts around all the efforts around student supports, institutional supports. So it was really a robust year, but we got to continue to fight and advocate for more funding for our district. We also had an update on ethnic studies. Well, ethnic studies, AB 1040 enjoyed legislative support from both houses. The bill died in Senate committee, but we'll continue to fight for AB 101, which is the high school graduation requirement for ethnic studies. We also had the Title V regulation on ethnic studies at the California Community College Board of Governors level. So we'll continue to push forward a number of fronts to really make sure that we continue to advocate for ethnic studies. Thank you to Trustees Bona for his leadership and efforts around ethnic studies, for President Bettis and everyone for your work and efforts around ethnic studies. Mr. Alanis provided an update on 2 LACCD sponsored bills, including Senate Bill 330, authored by Senator Duraso, on the joint occupancy bill, and AB 1383 that was authored by Assemblymember Carrillo, which was signed by the governor. We also have updates on other bills on teleconferencing, AB 361. It's going through a lot of different iterations, so we're continuing to track that policy. At the local level, we had updates from Mr. Glenn Gritzner, Mercury Public Affairs, on College Promise outreach and college navigator programs, and also scheduling additional tours for supervisory deputies on the LA Women Board program and Shower of Hope. And Santa Maria Group provided an update on the Metro Fearless System Initiative, and it's something we're going to continue to fight for and to really make sure that our students have access to the Fearless System Initiative program. And that we're working with and negotiating with Metro to only pay for those students who use the LA Metro program. And thank you so much to Ms. Willis for providing an update on our legislative visits and different legislative press releases. So thank you so much again to my colleagues, Trustee Vela and Trustee Hoffman, for a robust legislative public affairs committee, and to all my colleagues for all your support around our legislative priorities. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Fong. Next, Trustee Bona, can you summarize the proceedings of the Institutional Effectiveness and Student Success Committee?
Absolutely. Mr. or Vice Chancellor Coroner was not present, so that was first time in years that he wasn't present there. So we had actually a lot of items, and as the board remembers, we actually took an additional 10 minutes from the board time for that day. So we first went through the mission statement at LA Pierce College. LA Pierce College presented its revised mission system, and it was very good, and we appreciated what they said. That they spoke about their vision and value statement, emphasis on racial equity and social justice, and a friendly student-centered and empowering learning environment. Where the committee specifically pushed back on them was we were interested in the level of participation and opportunities for dissenting opinions and how those dissenting opinions are informing, and we recommended that process include those opinions in order to have it be robust. We went through the hiring process. East Los Angeles College President Albert Roman and Vice Chancellor Human Resources Gutierrez presented on the process for hiring full-time faculty. President Roman described the steps in the process at the college level, including department submission, prioritization by the college hiring committees, academic senate approval, and presidential finalization. Vice Chancellor Gutierrez described the completion of the intent to hire through district human resources. The committee was particularly interested in asking questions about the relationship between hiring, prioritization, and the district strategic plan priorities, and the carryover of unified requests from prior years to the current year prioritization process. This last part I went over, I think, is very important, as we, we wanted to make sure that just diversity and the growth of the district was prioritized. We went through the LACC security report that was given. In the district technology, there was the first time we had a district technology user satisfaction survey for faculty. Vice Chancellor Litz presented the results of recent customer service technology survey. It's very important for us in terms of, because for years we've been working on making sure that our IT is effective. The survey information was collected from the service request or ticket system that we have used by the IT department, allows the client to rate their level of satisfaction, again, from the individual faculty service received in resolving a particular IT problem. The IT department completed over 9,000 tickets in the May through July 2020 period, and there were about 1,000 responses to the survey. Again, a very good response. I believe that's around between 12 and 14%, which were overwhelmingly extremely satisfied. However, there was also an in-depth study of approximately 70 extremely dissatisfied, which we dug into, responses which pointed to areas such as follow-up and redirection for additional need. So even though it was extremely positive, those 70, we really dug in to see what was occurring there. The committee reviewed their survey results, noting that although extremely satisfied responses were very low, they were appeared to be concentrated in areas of support. And we suggested that this would warrant further review by the IT department. In addition, the IT committee also requested a follow-up report in 3 months. So in 3 months, we will get an additional report to see where things were and if the responses from those 70, and even though from those 1,000, we only got 70, the idea was to dig down to make sure that some of the issues by dissatisfied were addressed, because there might be others that didn't want to address those issues. So as part of the discussion, it was suggested that since it was not anonymous, it could discourage negative responses. The committee recommended that an anonymous survey be explored to ensure the completeness and validity of the responses. And as the chair of ISS, I will say it was very important that we asked the president of AFT, Ms. Waddell, and the AFT 1521A, if they had any issues or concerns with regard to the survey, and both said that they had not, and were given a chance to respond to the survey. And again, the board's been dealing with this for years, and especially as we're going through COVID, we felt this was important. So we also went through the enrollment report. EPIE submitted the annual FTES 320 report in July. Comparative enrollment information was also reported. Comparing fall, I'm just going to go over this a little slow. Comparing fall 2021 to fall 2020, as of day 18 of the semester for the district was as a whole 14% down in headcount, 16% down in duplicate enrollment, 4% up in credit section count, 20% down in enrollment per section. Data from the week of 8/9/21 showed enrollment declines at other college districts in the range of -20 to -16 for FTS. For fall 2021, class schedule information was also reported. Approximately 24% of class districts, classes district-wide were being offered in person, 24%, representing 17% of our seat capacity. Remote and hybrid classes were filling at higher rates than in person. Let me repeat that. Remote and hybrid classes were filling at higher rates than in person. Vice Chancellor Litz also reported on recent enhancements to the application process. Again, all this is very important, but this is important that the websites have been improved to reduce confusion and help streamline the application process. These enhancements have been implemented and include a common and highly visible location for the apply button, a consistent looking landing page, improvement and consistent acceptance letters from the colleges. So finally, in-person open house and registration fairs were held at the colleges on Saturday, August 7th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The open houses were attended by 6,000 students and visitors and 600 faculty and staff, as many of the board here were present, and there was a lot of social media coverage. College faculty, staff, administration, leadership welcomed students and assisted students with enrolling in classes, obtaining financial aid, and answering questions about academic programs and student services. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that there was also a discussion of the 15,000 students, and I forget there's an acronym for students who owe funding. Staff is working on forgiveness of certain, using her funding, forgiveness of certain loans, and in a tiered process way. So I wanted to, and that's it. This is the report from ISS, unless my colleagues have anything else to say. Thank you very much, President Bettis, for the time.
Thank you. Lots to unpack there. And I believe, Chancellor, you're probably going to also follow up on some of the issues that were mentioned, correct, in your report? Okay, so let's do this. Let's save questions for the Chancellor report when it comes to issues regarding start of school year, enrollment, etc. We'll get a chance to dig deeper there. Okay, next, student trustee Martinez. Can you talk to us about the student affairs committee that you chaired on the 20th? Student trustee. Okay, she may have stepped away from the webinar here. If she does come back, we'll leave the opportunity to come back to that. Okay, with that, let's jump over to report from the Chancellor. Chancellor, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, good afternoon. Buenas tardes to everyone. Welcome. Thank you, colleagues. We're looking forward to the beginning of the fall semester, and here's my report for this month here. Next slide, please. Here's what I'll cover today. I'll just touch on a couple highlights from the monthly report that you have, a few observations from the new academic year, give the monthly update, the up-to-date that we have status on COVID-19, and then conclude with some special announcements. And then I'll pitch it back to you, Board President Bettis, for a special recognition. So as we look at the fall semester, clearly we began on Monday. And I'll talk a little bit more about the district status on COVID-19 in just a minute. I do have an update on LACD enrollment, and it's more details are in the monthly report that is available and that is posted. But as of the report this morning, which is essentially a day one of enrollment, it's the following day, we are at about 89% headcount compared to last year at this time, 90% enrollments compared to last year at this time, up 1%, 101% of sections. And because of all that, the class size is a little bit lower. Wanted to mention that just a bit. We do know that our class sizes will be a bit lower for a variety of reasons. As you heard in a previous report, about 25% of courses are in person throughout the district. Some colleges a little higher, some a little lower, but the average is about 25% meaning, or have some kind of in-person component to the class, meaning that about 75% are online or hybrid courses throughout the district. That's different than what we had anticipated. In May, we had planned for almost a 50-50 split between in-person and online hybrid. But as you see, students have opted for a higher level of hybrid and online courses. The Delta variant clearly had some impact on that. So that's something that I wanted to share. Those are the updated announcements. What's more important here, though, is that if we compare our enrollments this fall to 2 years ago, the numbers are worse. Our Chancellor's retreat next week with our executive team, our cabinet, will solely focus in on enrollments, student retention, and increasing the student completions. Those are the elements that fuel the student-centered funding formula. While we find ourselves in a hold harmless period of this, we do find ourselves benefiting from federal and state support that is provided, at least for the moment, a stable fiscal environment. On the Foundation for California Community Colleges, I'll mention that we have a wonderful gift with respect from the Leonetti O'Connell Family Foundation. And then what they're going to do is they're going to support and further fund students who enroll at LA Southwest College who are part of the College Promise program. Now listen to this wonderful deal. In addition to tuition-free education, priority enrollment for students who enroll as College Promise students throughout the district. At LASC, The students will receive an additional $350 for books and supplies this fall. And upon completing this fall, they'll get another $350, and then they'll get $1,000 each month for the spring months of 2022. So we got lots of room at LASC. So please help us, our members, colleagues on the line here. Great instruction, great faculty, excellent support services for our students who enroll full-time at LA Southwest College. And again, thank you to the Leonetti O'Connell Family Foundation for their investment in our students. Next slide, please. So as we begin the new academic year, health and safety, as you heard, the board has made very clear. It was part of the messages from the beginning of the fall semester to the new year from Board President Vettis and myself. The health and safety remain and clearly our top priorities that we are investing in that area. Masking, facial coverings is required for all employees, students, and vendors throughout the system. We're upgrading our HVAC systems, improving, upgrading our filters, and of course the airflow. And you can see the flyers there related to clean spaces and clean air to give folks who are on campus a higher level of assurance. We are cleaning our restrooms more frequently, our classrooms more frequently, as well as our offices and all indoor spaces. We are hiring additional staff for cleaning and additional maintenance. In conjunction with the Personnel Commission, we have a robust list of potential employees to do these services, and our college presidents are actively scouring those lists and to get people on board to ensure that we have this additional cleaning and standards that we all want and that our students and faculty and staff deserve. I will direct you all to our district's website. We have a very robust COVID page that has tons of information and our most frequently asked questions that we have for any employee or student. So please don't ever feel that you never have access at your fingertips to the latest on COVID, to the latest of our cleaning protocols and how we are navigating this system. As we look at this fall as well, I'm very happy to report that over 1,000 students have now taken full advantage of the Kaiser Max, the VAX incentive from our district foundation and from the generous support of the Kaiser Permanente Foundation. Students are receiving $150 if they get vaccinated. So if you are a student or know of a student who is unvaccinated, go to any one of our colleges or have proof of vaccination, and you will be able to receive that. The numbers have been climbing steadily. And again, we thank the District Foundation and Kaiser Permanente for their generous support. Later this evening, the board will consider a board policy 2900, which essentially includes on its operative language as a condition of employment and as a condition of enrollment, the students must be vaccinated. So we will talk more about that in just a moment. Clearly, the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccination gives us, stronger ground, legal ground, and otherwise ground to stand on for making this requirement. And our rollout for our district plans on vaccination and testing, a very important but complicated process with the district of our size and complexity. It will be rolled out later this month. So please stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. And now some just quick announcements here. As part of the African American Outreach Initiative, I wanted to thank Dr. Berry and her team and all the leads throughout the campuses for their absolutely stellar work on organizing a Welcome Black event on September the 8th at West Los Angeles College. You'll see there from 3 to 5 p.m. You'll see we've got a couple of cool folks who are coming over that should get students excited, Amanda Seals and Kareem Grimes, and we look forward to welcoming them to our district and to West LA College. So again, thanks to the AOI team. One more announcement to make here. It was shared earlier in the legislative report, but I think it bears repeating. And that is, and then kudos to Trustee Vela for his leadership. We were very, very pleased at the passage of $10 million in the state budget that allocates dollars specifically for the LGBTQIA plus community. It's amazing. We'll be able to build LGBTQ centers, develop safe zones, focusing on mental health, housing, and basic need, developing learning communities for the LGBTQ community, Lavender graduations, so on and so forth. Our advisory committee and our LGBTQ Bill of Rights, led by our trustee, was the model that was convincing to the state legislature and ultimately to Governor Newsom to sign a $10 million one-time grant that will allow up to $500,000 grants, 20 of them, to be given this year. So we're all waiting for the announcement so we can all 9 colleges apply for that. But Trustee Vela, take a bow. I want to thank you for your leadership on this particular issue. And I think it's something very to be proud of. This is a district-wide, statewide impact on making sure that we provide a safe, welcoming learning community for our LGBTQ students and staff. In fact, I'm very proud of that. I'm very also proud that we've got $5 million in the budget for Umoja. So Trustee Henderson, I'm looking at you. You have made this an absolute priority in your leadership on this board, in our Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Black African American Student Affairs. Now, while $5 million is not quite enough, we believe statewide, it is a start, and we believe initial down payment on the support and success of Black students throughout the state of California. So thank you for your leadership, Trustee Henderson. You rock, and you did it, and we're going to continue to push that moving forward. We did get a lot of support from the CCLC League on these matters, and I just wanted to remind the board that in 2 years, our very own Trustee Hoffman will be the president of the CCCT board, and we're going to continue to leverage the leadership of this body to ensure that all those activities that we so deeply care about continue to be vested in. So Trustee Fong, thank you for your leadership, as well as chair of the Leccd committee. We're going to continue to do excellent work as we have done, and it's been a banner year, as you have reported already, and perhaps one of our best years. So I think I wanted to take time to recognize a lot of the good work that is led by this board of trustees. I also wanted to mention, you heard President Limbaugh talk about the NSF grant that was given to West Los Angeles College. This is the time that NSF is starting to award its grants, and I want to recognize LA Valley College as the lead, and LA Pierce. We received an NSF, we received notice yesterday for the grant that will create pathways to increase retention and transfer rates among STEM majors at both LA Valley and LA Pierce College. We received a $1 million NSF grant. How is that for good news for our science students at both LA Valley and LA Pierce colleges? I wanted to recognize Becky Green and Marroquin from Valley, Pamela Bird Williams from Valley, Diane Kim from Valley, and also Shannon Devaney from Pierce College as the co-principal investigators for this program. And of course, to President Crivens and to President Aguilar for their leadership on this effort. So very, very good news on the front of supporting success of students in STEM to amplify the STEM pipeline. So I think I will end there. And if I got the next slide, please. This is just announcing that there's an information session. We still have plenty of seats available for students who want to join the 9 college LA College Promise program around the district, September 16th from 5:30 to 6:30 is an information session. So please spread the word. Lots of room at our colleges for students to enroll full-time, first time, and indeed benefit from tuition-free education. And if you attend the LA Southwest College, an additional bonus. And students who might be listening in, or for faculty who might be listening in, they will want to share this with your students. This is in addition to our federal and state financial aid, in addition to the additional HERF grants that we are giving to students if they meet the certain financial aid criteria and eligibility. So I don't know if I've ever seen as much support in an academic year and whatnot for students. This is the time to enroll in college education. So please help us spread the word. And again, our retreat next week will be wholly focused in on enrollment and supporting our students moving forward. So last slide, Mr. Vettis, we're going to pitch this back to you. At the request of Board President Vettis, we found it fitting upon the retirement of Ron Miller in his retirement as Executive Secretary of the Los Angeles Orange County's Building and Construction Trades Council to recognize him. I will only say one thing and then pitch it back to you, Board President. What I'm very, very proud of, it's been an incredibly strong working relationship, but we have a 10-year project labor agreement between the building trades and LACCD, and that is, I think, the first of its kind in its country, and I think it sets the model for the rest of California and others who want a project labor agreement in their district. So it's something we're very proud of, and I know that Mr. Vettis had a lot to do with. So I will end my report there. We could do this recognition, and then I'm happy to respond to any questions members of the board might have on anything I've reported on or anything else.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. I did want to note for the record, colleagues, we have this district has already actually provided a resolution for Mr. Miller in the past for his service. So this is essentially a small recognition for his retirement. So the board has a full-blown 7-signature resolution in the past, so as to not duplicate efforts in the past. This is just an acknowledgement of that effort. Obviously, we 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years of work with Mr. Miller, and certainly this agreement that's been signed puts us forward for the next 10 years. I did want to let everybody know that Chris Hannah, he is the successor and is very familiar with the second in command at the trades for a long time, and is extremely excited to take over and continue to work with us here at LACCD. And so much so that they've actually, even with our SB 330 going out to committee, he organized a whole delegation of building trades to come forward and testify on its behalf for its passing out of the Assembly House and Committee. So just an acknowledgement. Ron is actually already retired and not reachable out of the office anymore, but and he had a celebration a few nights ago that myself and Mr. Fong had a chance to attend. But again, one of those that the board has already done a 7-signature resolution. So there's only so many of those we should do that we at least wanted to do a small recognition for his time and his effort there. So let me open it up now to questions, colleagues, for the Chancellor's report. There's a number of items going on. As he alluded to, there was some, we do have an advancing policy later in the meeting. We have our budget approval, and of course there was some additional materials that were coming from the in-person enrollment process, et cetera. So let me get a chance. We'll try to go through all the trustees today and give you an opportunity to say a few words or ask your questions at this moment. So let me go ahead and kick it off. I see Trustee Hoffman is eager to get. She's got her hand up, so we'll start with you, Trustee. You have the floor.
Thank you. I put my hand up before I realized that you were just going to go down the list. So
that just means you want to go first.
I'll go first. Thank you, Chancellor, for your great report. And I'm so proud of my colleagues, Trustee Vela and Trustee Henderson and David. I posted something on Facebook about your great work. And I just want to say, representation matters. And I'm very proud to be on this board where we have diverse representation in all kinds of ways. So thank you. And I appreciate the report, Chancellor. I'm very excited that the semester has kicked off and we've started. And I kind of wanted to take just a minute to publicly thank Katrelia Walker and Lynette Martin, because they shared with me the COVID safety training video, and I hope we're still using that district-wide, correct?
Yes.
They shared that with me, so I was able to make a video for student workers in my job at Glendale College. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge their support and assistance, and thank you, Dr. Nish. I do have a question, and hopefully maybe we can get a presentation at our September 22nd board meeting. Can we talk a little bit about what the return to campus was like for faculty and for staff and for students, if we can get just some kind of a report? And I know that we brought back our classified staff at 100% capacity. And I'm just, in light of the fact that Trustee Buelna reported out that students are preferring the remote environment, I want to make sure that our services are available to them remotely. And I don't know if there's any way we can sort of like reevaluate if we have 100% of our staff on campus, are students being served remotely as well. And then I just have a comment for us to consider, Chancellor. You know, we have a mask mandate, and I think that's fantastic. And obviously we all know the importance of mask wearing. If you're a manager, you have the ability to go into an office and close your door and be alone and take off your mask. When we require people to come back to campus every single day, all day long, and I'm just talking from my own experience, suddenly you're, you know, in a group setting wearing your mask all day. And just for, you know, just to get used to that could be kind of an interesting experience. For that, so for those reasons, I would suggest that we maybe think about staggered schedules or, you know, moving people a little further apart. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there. So thank you for your report, and I'll look forward to some actual real experiences when we get back together again in September.
Next, let me jump over to Trustee Buelna.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to my trusted colleague Hoffman is the greatest trustee on this planet. However, the hybrid was the preferred option for the students. I just want to make sure, because that was the data coming from our IESS. I don't know what that means either way, but it was the hybrid component that is the most popular, and I just wanted to make sure that I got that out there. That was it.
Okay. Trustee, did you have any other comments beyond that?
I have a lot of comments, but you know, not on this stuff.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Trustee Fong, questions or comments on the Chancellor's report?
Thank you so much, President Vettis, and thank you so much, everyone, for everything you're doing for our students. And great kick off to the fall semester, and great to see everything in action. And thank you to everyone for your work and efforts on that, to my colleagues, to the Chancellor, to everyone at the board meeting and virtually. And thank you, Chancellor, for the robust report on the foundations update as well, Leonetti. It's great to hear that. And the Pepsi and everything else. A lot of good work happening around the foundation and to provide additional supports for our students. And thank you to everyone for all the work and efforts around the open houses, the drop by the East LA College one, and Chancellor and I and Dr. Roman and everyone. That was a great event, and great to hear that 600 staff and faculty were out there helping out with the different open houses. So kudos to the entire team and to all my colleagues for all your support of the different open houses. And thank you so much to Ron Miller. I know that you already presented the certificate. It was great to see President Vettis at the reception. Ron's been a great champion for working families and for all his partnership with our colleges, to him and the building trades for everything they've done for our students, our faculty, our staff, administration. So just want to put it on the record. Thank you, Brother Ron, for your amazing leadership and efforts with the LA Orange County Building and Trades Council. And thank you again to all out here for all your work and efforts around the fall semester and everything and beyond in this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Vela, questions or comments?
Just wanted to really, think about where we have been and where we are at today, and what we can learn really about the Chancellor's report is not so much the fact that we all pull together. If we think about all of the different funding mechanisms that are coming to the district based upon need, where every stakeholder had a lot to do with advocating, but where we are today with our student population and where they feel and how they feel when, classes opened up last week or this week. And we have to understand that the reality is we have to remain flexible, and we really do have to understand that this is evolving. And so I think I really want to thank our colleagues. I want to thank the Chancellor for continuing to provide that flexibility, which is extremely important, I believe, as we move forward and really listen to the students and how they're feeling. I really want to thank Trustee Martinez, because she has really been that voice. I see her out there in the community talking to the students. So I want to thank her. And then also our faculty and staff who, continue to attend our meetings, giving us their experience. And we really do have to listen to them too as we move forward. So there's no doubt in my mind that we're not going to get this right. I think we're on the right track, but listening and being flexible is where I think we're going to find that success. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vela. Next, Trustee Moreno.
Thank you. I don't want to dampen the moment, but in everyone's celebration. However, I think we have to realize that the district is probably the lowest in terms of enrollment, the greatest slide ever. The average class sizes as reported, I think it may be the lowest ever in the history of the district, which means that we're not very healthy. If the funding continues, well, then we're living on borrowed time. But eventually we may become more normalized. And I think we're in terrible trouble because all the celebrations of all the special efforts, and they should be recognized, but it has to be taken with regard to the backdrop of the fact that we are in serious trouble, enrollment-wise, expenditure-wise, staffing-wise, given the size of our institutions. And I might add, this is not a good time to even talk about building programs when we're talking about massive enrollment declines. So I don't know how we continue to justify a lot of the expenditures we're engaged in. However, again, let's be realistic. The primary mission of this district is to serve students. If the students aren't coming to us, then we really have to revisit what we've been doing to accomplish that task. Again, just a little bit of reality. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, we'll go to Trustee Henderson.
Thank you, President Veras. I just want to say thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, for your very detailed report. I'm very, very pleased that we have been able to amass so much in additional funding for our colleges in support of our students who are so often going without. But and also give kudos to Trustee Vela and all the work that he's doing for our LGBTQ plus students. He's been a true advocate for them, and congratulate Ron Miller. And I hope that as a board, we can start thinking more intentionally about how we utilize our additional fundings as opposed to, some of the ways that we've done in the past with building in themes versus really focusing on our students and our stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Student Trustee Martinez, are you here? Do you have us?
Yes, hello. Thank you for circling back to me. I was having issues with my connection, but I think I'm all good now.
No worries.
So
if I can ask you to do two things. One, this is question and comments on the Chancellor section. And two, when we lost you there, it was your update from your Student Affairs Committee. So you can do both.
Okay, so I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank all of my colleagues for all of the amazing work that they're doing to help certain marginalized groups that are a part of LACCD. And I think that it's really amazing that, in this time right now, you're doing everything you can to support certain marginalized groups that are going to need a lot of support right now. And that we're fighting for the safety of our students on campus. So thank you so much, Chancellor, for that update. In terms of my report, so I had, I believe it was my third or fourth Student Affairs Committee this past week or this past week and a half, and it was really good. We had all of the colleges attend except for two, so we're still working on having 100% quorum to ensure that we're seeing representation from all of the colleges and hearing the needs of all of the students. But the colleges right now, there's a bit of low enrollment in terms of the associated student body, but we had an amazing conversation on how we can up enrollment and increase morale. And across the colleges, they were sharing like tips and tricks and things like that, and things that they're doing to, help with morale and things in terms like that. I also attended a student trustee retreat with the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. So I was able to network with some of the other trustees across California to see, you know, what it is that we can do to better support our students. And I also expressed and I shared some of the new policies and agenda items that we had on our past 2 Board of Trustees meetings, and I got really good feedback. So I believe that I'm going to be having my next Student Affairs Committee on the 10th, and we're going to be planning to work on something that I will hopefully be able to bring to the Board of Trustees and efforts to continue to support students and faculty and staff. So really looking forward to that, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the Chancellor on this report? Okay, we'll make a short comment and then we'll move on from here. Chancellor and colleagues, certainly I think our enrollment conversation still reflects the fact that we're in a pandemic. We did have a moment this past summer where it did feel like things were getting back closer to normal, but certainly from the updated vaccination policy, the advancement here, the conversations across the board, it is still the preeminent issue for us at our colleges, amongst our employees, and certainly with the students. And there's going to be continuing transitions. This is actually why we receive HERF funding to help deal with the challenges that are before us. And certainly as we learn from and converse with other districts that are dealing with similar kinds of things, I would like to say, for as much as a challenge as it's been, there are students who depend on us for places like our libraries and our in-person activities, because they may not have those resources and that quiet space and that space to study at home. So, and beyond that, we also have some folks that are looking for career technical and certain classes that just were not part of our easily remotable experience. And so I think as we sort of continue here, we've gone from a window of just about 1,000 people on campus, on all the campuses, doing some in-person activities that were just hard to convert, to now looking at about 20,000 or so. So lots of things in flux, and certainly I think as we keep pressing the vaccination conversation, that by far is the number one thing that we can do across the board, is encourage our students, our faculty, and the rest of our employees to be fully vaccinated. So this is going to be a continuing dialogue, and we'll see what we look like in the next few weeks as we go through the baseline testing conversation and the vaccination mandates. But they're clearly having a direct and immediate impact to our enrollment. I would say that our remote, from what I understand, our remote class sizes are a little bit bigger than our in-person. But that certainly makes sense because of the challenge. We had a bit of a variant surge right in the middle of our enrollment. When we were usually surging in enrollment, we have a surge of the Delta variant, and clearly the Delta variant is ravishing unvaccinated individuals throughout the state of California. The vaccine is safe and it is working in extremely high levels of effectiveness. So with that, thank you all, colleagues, for your comments, Chancellor, for the report. And we're going to continue to get back to this conversation. This is not like business as usual. We are still in a state, still recognized as a state of emergency from the statewide perspective. And while June we saw tears go down, clearly there's still more work to do in September here. So with that, we'll go ahead and close this item, and we'll move forward to the combined consent calendar, colleagues. So first we have items L1 through X3 for your consideration. These are consent calendar items for Human Resources, Personnel Commission, Academic Affairs, Student Services, Budget, Finance, Business, and Facilities. Are there any items that you wish to pull from the combined consent calendar? Okay, seeing none. let me ask for, and actually, yeah, let me ask for a motion and a second here.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, motion by Trustee Hoffman, seconded by Trustee Fong. If we can have a roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. The consent calendar passes. Let's move forward to where are we at? Item Y, budget and finance items. We have one item here, which is temporarily suspending the accumulated ending balance limits in the district allocation model. Chancellor, do you have a quick report here?
Yes, I do. This item was taken up by the Budget and Finance Committee next week, but essentially because we have ending balances that have been fueled in part from her funding, and we're very pleased that each of the colleges are ending or have ended in the black. What this does is it essentially allows the colleges to retain their excess funding that exceeds the 5% in some cases, so that they can deal with the enrollment challenges and other kinds of unforeseen challenges and whatnot. So we discussed this at DBC, we discussed this at the board committee, and would find fit to suspend the current rule that would allow the colleges to keep their current balances to address any unforeseen changes and circumstances and to build enrollment.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. Colleagues, can I have a motion and a second to adopt budget and finance item Y1?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Vela, seconded by Trustee Buelna. Roll call vote.
Can we have a little bit of discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm happy to open it for discussion. Didn't know there was an interest.
Oh, I figured you wanted to do the motion in the second. So
Okay.
I just have a question because I'm looking at it. There are some colleges on here that don't have excess funds. Are any of our colleges in the red?
No, all of our colleges are in the black.
Okay. That's all. That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's move forward with roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes,
Thank
the item
you.
passes. Next, we'll move on to business items, Z1 through Z11. Are there any items that require further information or clarification? Okay, seeing none, if I can ask for we'll take the items together. If I can ask for a motion and a second on these business items.
So move.
Motion by Trustee Fong,
I'll second.
second by Trustee Hoffman. And if we can do a roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes, those items pass. Next, we'll move forward to facility items, AA1 through AA11. Colleagues, are there any questions, comments, need for further clarification on any of the items listed here? Okay, seeing none, let me do a little bit of a chair's prerogative. And Dr. Smith, if you're able to speak to Southgate Educational Center's project, the construction contract that's coming up there. I know that's one we've had a joint meeting with the city of Southgate. I just wanted to make sure people can be aware of this subsequent step here.
You should be joining us shortly.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Crystal, can you go to AA2, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, President Veras, and good evening. This item is actually the award of construction a project for the Southgate Education Center, the new site. So what you have before you is a contract amount for $90 million to build out our new space. This is on the 40-acre Firestone site that was purchased many years ago. We're excited about this 3-story, 105,000 square foot facility that will house our Southgate Education Center. So we will relocate to that site in just a few years.
Okay, thank you. And then also noting for the record, there's a continuing duct cleaning, continuing improvements across the district. But I did want to note, anytime we have a $90 million approval here, it is worth its way to highlight and underscore activity and commitment to the community down in the Southeast Los Angeles area. So, okay, colleagues, with that, if I can ask for a motion and a second on these facility items.
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Buelna, second by Trustee Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Is there any discussion?
Oh, sorry, I asked for discussion prior, but you're welcome to jump in now.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay. Trustee.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to thank the Build program for what must have been a very, just large task with no pun intended with the size of this project. And, wanted, since we have discussed it before, wanted to just ensure that, we continue to, since this is a big deal today, that we alert in whatever capacity, not only the citizens of Southgate, but the citizens of the Southeast, that this is indeed moving forward after we award this. Definitely communicate with those leaders in these cities, and really just, I'm excited because I think we can start to implement and really, grow our local hire accountability program. In particular, there's a lot of people that, work in this community that are in construction, that are wanting to get into construction, that are attending colleges. So however we can involve our students throughout the area, and really anyone that would like to be part of this and maybe find a job, who knows, and so I congratulate Turner, but at the same time, hoping to see that, they outreach into the community to ensure that we bring in our local hires and smaller vendors from the community. So again, congrats to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If we can get a roll call vote.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote?
Yes.
Trustee Buelna?
Yes.
Trustee Fong?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson?
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman?
Yes.
Trustee Moreno?
Yes.
Trustee Vela?
Yes.
Trustee Veras?
Yes. Wonderful. So those items pass, and we are now on to public hearing to adopt the LACCD 2021-2022 final budget. Colleagues, the next item requires a public hearing. So with that, let me kick it off and get it started. And let me announce that the public hearing is open now. And with that, Chancellor, could you make some comments?
Yes.
Frame us in this upcoming presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. In June, the board passed a tentative budget for next year. We now come to you with the final budget once the numbers have been reconciled. So my thanks to our CFO, Gordon, and her team that got all this in order for the board. The board has received the final budget document. It has been posted since the weekend, so it is open for all to see. As we begin this public hearing, I wanted just to make a comment, and it relates to the earlier comments made around enrollments and fiscal stability for the district. And that is, it's important for the board to know that for next year, the district's financial outlook indeed does remain stable. Stable is a word that I'll use under the current state adopted student-centered funding formula. And it's largely due to the aid that we have received externally from the federal and state governments. As has been pointed out, we're incredibly thankful for our leaders that have allowed that to occur, our elected officials at both the federal and state levels, but also due to the current hold harmless provision that we have still in effect for the next few years. But I want this board to know very clearly that we remain absolutely focused on increasing enrollments, increasing retention for the students that have entrusted their educational lives to us, increasing completions, and ultimately their graduation. I need and want to say that for the record because it is absolutely what is occupying our time. What's also important is that by doing so, we maximize the 3 revenue streams into the SCIF, the SCFF, that includes access, equity, and student success. So we are maintaining our mission, and we'll approach this in a zealous manner, and we'll have better results. Related to the long-term fiscal health of LACCD, that's an important question. Mr. Moreno raised it, I think appropriately, the long-term fiscal impact of LACCD. There is a fiscal imperative to do increased enrollments, to bolster access and equity for the tens of thousands of students who are still not accessing education to LACCD colleges, to reclaim the large number of students who actually go through the application process but never enroll. So through social media, through other outreach efforts, we're trying to capture those students who've gone through the process but for whatever reason have not enrolled. With our late starting classes, there's an opportunity and a seat waiting for each one of them. Of course, bolstering access is just part of the equation. Retaining and graduating more students, improving their course completions and the numbers of degrees and certificates is equally as important. And in doing so, we get people ready for the workforce that our employers are asking us to support them in, as well as the universities in supplying transfer students and whatnot. So I wanted just to sort of frame that document. Again, the document that's in front of you. So Ms. Gordy, I'm going to pass it to you. Again, with our thanks from the Board of Trustees for the work of your team to get us to this point. So please walk us through the highlights of the proposed budget, final budget for next year. Ms. Gordon?
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, trustees and audience. You notice it says proposed final budget, and it's proposed until it's approved by the board. And this state budget provides extensive ongoing and one-time investments in the community college system, COLA of 5.07% and growth of 0.5%. It has eliminated all deferrals and extends the hold harmless for 1 additional year through 2024-25. There's several ongoing funds for targeted student services, workforce development, and faculty hiring. One-time funds for student basic needs, retention and enrollment, deferred maintenance, faculty, professional development, and office hours. On the next 2 pages, you will see in detail the state budget broken out as to ongoing funds and one-time funds. And also you will see the effect for LACCD. So I'm going to highlight some of the more important areas, which is the COLA for LACCD is $32.6 million. For the unrestricted general fund and $2.5 million for categorical. For mental health students, $2.6 million. Full-time faculty is 8.6, which the state estimates is 98 faculty for LA Community College District. We have already submitted the documentation saying that we are going to accept those funds to hire those faculty. There's targeted support for UMOJA, Puente, Mesa, EOP&S, and C funds totaling $5.5 million. Strong workforce, $3.6 million. Integrated Basic Needs Center, $2.6 million. which calls for a college to establish basic needs center in a central location on campus where all resources for students are available. All of that is ongoing to LACCD. Some of the one-time funding to LACCD is student housing for basic needs at $8.6 million, for food pantries, assist housing insecure students, and we have until June of 2024 to spend those funds. $8.6 million for retention and enrollment, and these funds can be used as fiscal incentives for students who have withdrawn, but also for new prospective students. We have deferred maintenance and instructional support of $43.8 million. Part-time office hours, $7.7 million. This is to reimburse our district for the office hours we already gave to adjunct. And then I don't have the amount for the LGBTQ because we have to apply for it, but as you have heard earlier, $10 million for the whole system. So moving on to the next. The changes from the tentative budget to the final budget. We had an increase in our COLA from the 1.7% to 5.07. In the final budget, we have distributed all open orders and designated balances. Designated balances are made up of the college balances, total college balances of $43.5 million. This is outstanding, and most of this is due to her funding. ESC IT balance of 2.0 million, district-wide and BDK of 6.4, and open orders of 16.4 million. The budget planning assumptions, total budget, hold on just a minute, sorry. Budget planning assumptions for unrestricted were based on the state adopted budget of $675 million, which is our total compensational revenue plus COLA. This is our whole harmless amount. And we also maintain our 6.5% general reserve and 3.5% contingency reserve for a total of 10% reserve. And we set aside 2% for deferred maintenance fund. The allocations are $875 million total budget allocations, with the college allocations being 581.1, which includes the 151.8 of EPA funds. Our district-wide accounts are budgeted at 120.4 million. District office is 32 million. Information technology is 19 million. Contingency reserve 25.4, and our general reserve is 47.2. 14 million for the 2% deferred maintenance. STRS PERS reserve. The STRS PERS reserve for last year, end of the year, was 17 million. We took the difference between that and the 11.6 and put it into the college budgets for 21-22 to cover increases in STRS PERS rates. And then we have our supplemental retirement program payment of 10.3 million, which includes payments for all three of the retirement incentives. So the district's final budget of 5.5 billion reflects the following major budgets. Our building fund, which is Prop A, AA, Measure J, and CC, is 3.6 billion. Unrestricted general fund, 875 million. Restricted general fund, 445 million. Student financial aid, 454. Then our capital outlay special reserve fund at 58.5. We have bookstores at 26 million, child development at 14.9, debt service of 7.1, and cafeteria of 2.3 million. That is the presentation. That is our final budget for 21-22. And we're starting out this year with a very good budget. And just to recap on the ending balances for our colleges, that was the reason why we wanted to allow them to keep those funds, because they can take advantage of that and prepare themselves for 24-25 when we come out of hold harmless. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. General Counsel, can I ask your quick opinion, since we're in the hearing now, public hearing now. Do I take public comment before I take the trustee comments and questions?
President Bettis, yep, that would be the way to go, just as our general meeting, take the public comment and then allow the trustees to comment, if there is any public comment.
Okay. All right, well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and open officially the public comment on the LACCD 2021-2022 final budget. Thank you, Ms. Gordon, for the presentation, Chancellor for the introduction. Are there any members of the public who have signed up to speak at this time?
No one has officially signed up.
Okay, let me provide a minute for attendees to make sure that we have a full process adhered to in the public hearing process. I do see one hand up, and it is our Senate Faculty Senate President here, so we can move her over and give an opportunity for Ms. Echeverry to provide public comment on the board. And President Echeverry, could you note if you were in support or opposed, or be clear with us in terms of the public comment process, either which way. So you do have a floor. We'll provide 3 minutes for comments.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to, my name is Angela Echeverry. I'm the president of the District Academic Senate. I want to speak in support of this budget. And I would also want to encourage the colleges to use some of these additional funds to improve campus safety as we return to in-class instruction or in-person instruction. In particular, I think encouraging the reduction of classroom sizes in in-person classes until we get through this Delta variant surge. I'm not talking about all classes, but in person. I think the reduction of classroom size and increase of social distancing is going to be important as we transition back to campus. And I did write to the board and the college presidents about this concern that the District Academic Senate has, as well as encouraging telework. And in particular, another concern that has been expressed is the teaching environment for counselors who tend to be in close proximity or quarters with their students. So I would encourage us to use some of those funds to help transition back, as well as to address the needs of our communities, in particular, some of the learning loss that has occurred in the last year and a half. I think we need to pivot, but I do support the budget, and I do want to thank everybody for their hard work in making this return to campus as safe as possible. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments for the adoption of the budget? Okay, seeing none, we will close the comment portion of the final budget here, and let me open it up to the trustees for questions, comments before we do our final vote here. Okay, so let me ask one, Trustee Hoffman, questions or comments?
I have no questions. Thank you, Ms. Gordon. That was an excellent presentation, and I'm encouraged to start this academic year off in a good way. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Trustee. Trustee Buelna, questions or comments?
None, Trustee Bettis.
Thank you. Trustee Vela, questions or comments?
Yes, really quick. I did want to, again, this is, unprecedented, fantastic. And I don't want people to think that there was not much background work being done. Again, I mentioned that earlier, and, really thanking everybody who's a part of putting the final budget together. I must say that, we understand that, this is, during the hold harmless period, and, for the public, for the stakeholders, we understand that we are currently in a flux when it comes to enrollment, and taking that very seriously and in account. When we had the budget committee meetings, a big part of the conversation, I want to thank Trustee Buelna, Vice President Buelna, and his committee, is that we are preparing and we are looking at, this chancellor in particular is looking at how enrollment will figure into our budget after hold harmless and all of these great warm fuzzy sentiments from our state government, our federal government on this budget. So I just want to let folks know that I do want this district to continue to look at the way we spend our money. I know that our colleges have, had in the past, different balances. And so how do we look upon, not sacrificing, for example, some of our more important, employees that, for example, continue to keep our campuses safe and clean. So I challenge and want to work with the chancellor and the college presidents to ensure that those continue to be staffed as we move forward, and they balance their own budgets. And I think that what we've seen here is that the district has acted as a resource, and we want to continue to do that. We know that there is a growing, I believe, not just the fact that we had COLA and we understand that all of our employees are getting that, but looking at the ways that, we look at equity in the future is important between, the various employee groups as well. So, again, this came with a lot of hard work, and, I really have to give this credit over to the leadership of the board, to Chancellor Rodriguez, and to Ms. Gordon in particular for putting this together. And again, just really thanking everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Next, Trustee Fong.
Thank you so much, President Vettis. Just to echo my colleague, Trustee Vela's comments, ditto, and thank you to everyone for your working efforts on this, and Trustee Hoffman said it as well. So thank you, Ms. Gordon, Chancellor, and all the teams, all the folks around the table, the budget committee, and to everyone at the district. So it's a robust budget year. Let's keep advocating for more funds, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Henderson.
Just thank you, Ms. Gordon, for this report. Again, I am looking forward to, just being able to do more for our students, and letting them know through our budget that we care and that we're concerned. So thank you so much for this presentation.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Moreno.
Yeah, may I have a question though? How does the unrestricted fund of $875 million compared to last year? How did what I did? Maybe it's in the back in the data, but I don't have it before me now. Maybe you can find that for me. What was the amount last year?
Okay. I might be able to find it, but I can't give it to you. I have to go find my budget book to look.
I see.
I don't remember how much it was last year.
Is it greater or less than? Is the current year greater or less than that amount?
The current year is probably right around the same amount that it was at the budget at the beginning of the year. Our restricted money comes in later. You are talking about restricted funds, right?
I'm talking about unrestricted.
Oh, unrestricted.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think it's around the same, but I can look it up for you.
Yeah. Imagine there was a growth in it, I imagine.
Yes, my intuition is that this is higher.
It had to be less because we got COLA. Last year was less.
That's correct.
Because we got COLA this year.
Yeah, we don't know how much it is more.
Oh, at least 33 million more.
How's everybody planning for the situation where we are growing our budget, but losing students? It's in kind of a inverse correlation, which as we decline in enrollment, and I'm at class sizes as low as they are, and we have increased funding, there's a tendency for this district to spend money just to spend money. do you have any plan to try to keep that money as realistic as possible? Because we are already spending, given the class size numbers, well beyond what is reasonable to run an institution this size, only because it's impossible. The bad habits you begin now are going to be difficult, if not impossible, to correct when you're going to have to correct it in the very short future, near future. And I would like to see some management of our budget, in the sense that we are not spending money on a reoccurring basis, so that when we have to face the reality of our enrollment condition, and there's no magic bullet given all the massive effort that's going to correct this, given the fact that we are creating, I believe, a population that are going to forget who we are unless we do something very quickly to change that. But I would like to see some kind of plan that preserves this unrestricted money for that major hit, which is definitely coming. I've never seen a situation where you have a declining enrollment with an increase in funding, which is almost counterintuitive. But maybe we'd like to talk about that in the future relative to the budget committee. Maybe getting a hold of this situation where we're in fact saving money rather than determining how we're going to spend it. I do appreciate the effort in allowing the colleges to earn whatever balances, but they need to be assured that those balances will not be taken from them if they don't spend them. And that's the critical piece that I'm not sure whether the provision or the changes in our operation include that. I'm sorry, did I hear somebody?
The changes that we made in that regard, Trustee Moreno, they will have those funds until 24, 25 to do whatever they want. When we go back into the regular operations, then we can reconsider whether we take them or not. We don't know where we will be. But to answer your question, we have 9 college presidents that are working.
Let me make a point here. It's very important. From a college perspective, when you tell the college these monies will not be yours in 24, 25, or whatever that year is, it then motivates them to spend the money before that time. There has to be a way of motivating to keep that money, to reserve that money. But I can assure you the mentality of the colleges will be, they figured out pretty rapidly that if you're going to take it from them, they're going to spend it. So I suggest you revisit that approach so that there isn't this, decision later on that they can count on that's going to result in having to lose all that money.
Mr. Vettis, may I make a comment?
Yes, sir, Chancellor.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Gordon. Mr. Moreno, thank you for your observations. Let me just point out a few things. One is on the HERF or federal dollars that we are receiving. We have a deadline by which to spend those funds. Those are one-time funds. So we will be spending those on one-time expenses within the guidelines that have been provided and within the timeline that has been provided. So you will see some spending on that. And it seems, again, counterintuitive to your point, but those are the rules, regulations, and timelines.
Those monies won't be spent, excuse me, Bernard, those won't be spent for salaries then.
No, they are not. They're prohibited from spending on salaries, sir. These are for items directly related to COVID responsiveness and to loss of revenue because of COVID. It can't be spent on marketing. It can't be spent on salaries.
What can it be? When you said loss of COVID monies, does that mean salaries?
No, revenues from for example, the colleges were earning quite a bit of resources from the rentals and other kinds of bookstore and other kinds of earned income.
Yes.
It does allow for some of that loss, but the rules are pretty specific. Ms. Gordon and her team are monitoring that precisely because we do have to provide expenditure reports. So I wanted to point out that there are going to be some expenditures that are indeed taking place. Secondly, there are So there are some, we had 400 persons, colleagues that retire or will retire this December from our district. We're utilizing that as an opportunity to look at our organization, at our departments. We will not be backfilling 400% of the people who left. But we're looking at critically the key functions that we need now to support the students that we have.
You have a plan to reduce the operation staff-wise to accommodate the declining enrollment? Because very candidly, the decline is so substantial heading downward, and there's even potential of carrying on that decline beyond this year, that when you're going to have to come back and recapture all that revenue that you've been spending to pay for staff and faculty that are by that time will not have the adequate funding for the number of students we serve.
That's great. Yeah, your observation is a good one. The one-time monies will be used for one-time expenses. We're not adding staff utilizing one-time money. So if there is staff that is to be put on board, for example, we received about $8.5 million, or will receive, for full-time faculty hiring ongoing. So we'll use ongoing money for ongoing expenses and one-time dollars for those things that are not ongoing. So that is the prudent plan and approach that we will have. And we will make adjustments to our enrollments. That is correct.
All that I would suggest is, having spent 50 years in this process, is that we need to cushion the impact that is definitely coming. And that's where my concern is.
Agreed. And we are building that, sir. We could not agree more.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Moreno. Trustee Bona, I see your hand. I do want to get a chance to make a few comments myself. Let me do this. I didn't get a chance to call on the student trustee, so let me call on her first. Actually, I did, but I wanted to. No, I didn't for this item. I apologize. Student trustee Martinez, did you have any comments here on the open budget dialogue?
Yes. Hello. I think maybe the one comment that I would just like to make is that although it is a giant issue, of course, as we know that we have a very, very, very low enrollment rate. I think that allocating more money to certain, these certain budgets that are going to directly benefit students is going to make students want to come back, and is going to appropriately support the students that we already have right now that can be struggling. So I think that's just the only comment that I would like to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me make a few comments. Ms. Gordon, did you have a comment to Mr. Moreno's comments, or was there additionally?
Yes, I wanted to tell him that the budget for unrestricted general fund in 2021 was $832 million.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right. So let me make my comment, and then I'll jump back up to Trustee Buona. So there's a few things that I want to encourage my colleagues here to consider as we're looking at adopting this budget here. One, that this is we don't actually face pandemics very often in our lifetimes. So this is a very, very special and unique circumstance. Oftentimes we use the word unique. This is unique. This is different. And at some point, we may have to spend years trying to understand what the pandemic has done to the operations and essentially the business of community colleges, and even in higher education. We've gone almost overnight to being marginally remote and utilizing distance learning to having it be sort of the bread and butter of the operation here, the core function of the operation. That's going to continue to be a dialogue. I think from here forward, we're always going to be some version of remote or hybrid from here forward. But there's a couple of things that happen at the same time. For as much as we were in a pandemic, the state was also essentially in a budget surplus mode. Oftentimes when you have crisis, and the crises that we've faced in the past have been related to economic downturns. And certainly we would be talking about budget cuts and prioritizations, as opposed to talking about what to do with the surplus. And that's equaled everything from a cost of living adjustment that's substantially larger than we've seen over the past few years, to even hold harmless scenarios. So I'm not sure we can actually predict consistently that California's budget will continue to provide us in these kinds of ways. It is as substantially strong as we've probably ever seen it, and I think it sort of lays out in the kind of dollars the K through 12 and higher education systems have received. So as you know, I'm not sure I can say, you know, for as much as there is concern and there's need to be prepared for the future, we also have a handful of elements that are sort of reminiscent of, you know, open up and do more and grow. And, you know, there's two contrasting things in front of us, which makes this process, you know, harder than it's ever been. And so I'd like to hope that the enrollment declines that we're seeing and that the rest of our sister colleges up and down the state are seeing are just temporary. But if this is related to what we do, the kind of services we provide, the mode in which we're providing them, the format in which we're providing them, I think we're going to have to be consistently aware of what we're doing and how we're approaching, because it may no longer be business as normal from this point forward. However, there's lots in this budget that provides us sort of cushion to, you know, have our landings not quite be so smooth. There is surplus. There's certainly, you know, there is, you know, and I don't want to indicate, you know, give the impression that there's just a bunch of money to go waste and spend. There's not. I mean, we still have very substantial things that need to happen to ensure the health and safety of our students, of our employees. Those are ready and ongoing expenditures that are taking place, that are on this budget, that will be on upcoming budgets, to make sure the campus facilities, you know, can do everything they need to do to, you know, handle what may be, you know, continuing concerns with an airborne virus. And so colleagues, and I know there was plenty of optimistic, you know, comments here. I did want to sort of temper and balance it out, that there are things that seem to not have gone together in our past history of very healthy surpluses in Sacramento and dealing with, you know, crisis, health crisis in front of us. So those two things don't go together. Many other states are not in our position, where their state budgets are doing poorly and they are troubled to try to stay afloat. We just happen to be confronting the crisis in a different kind of way. Sometimes it feels like we're better off than others. Sometimes it feels like we're just like the rest. But certainly in terms of budget, in terms of the California economy, it is amongst the strongest in the nation. And so to have those two things work together is certainly challenging. But, you know, and I've said this several times, that the strength of our budget depends on our wealthiest Californians, which means that we service our most working class and our poorest. And so to be able to translate the monies received there to effective service to the working class of Los Angeles in our service area is our responsibility, and it's very important. But there's a lot of things that seem contradictory that are in front of us in this budget, and so I hope we adopt it. There's some optimism here in terms of what we do, but we always have to be cognizant and cautious about what's happening. I will say one last thing in terms of the construction program. Most even today, with Southgate approved as the $90 million proposal, or the $90 million item, is to improve existing facilities where students exist. You know, we're going from essentially a converted shopping center as an education facility to something that is not double or triple the size, but something that has planned for plain and simple modest growth and will service a region the way it should have been serviced for many, many years. So it's taken us a long time to get there. And many of the projects and many of the proposals on top before us are in the mode of improving our facilities for the current use and current functions, not necessarily in a full-blown growth method, but in really trying to deal with the facilities for the campus community that we have existing. So, those are my comments here. Trustee Buelna, let me go to you. And if there's no other comments, colleagues, then we'll proceed to a vote to adopt this budget.
Thank you. in terms of our ability to have another 1 or 2 years of hold harmless is going to be important, and our advocacy next year is going to be essential. So I just wanted to lay that out. The other thing is, as we're looking at these enrollment numbers and the big strategic kind of view, there's a few things we don't know. We know, or we do know. We know that before the pandemic, we were at 19% enrollment, and we know that approximately a month and a half later, we were at 100%. We know that we have the Delta virus in the middle of enrollment, and that students are liking online, but they like hybrid as well. And we don't know, however, is that temporary, or do you have a shift? We do know that it's going to be more than 19% that's online coming back. We don't know whether it's going to be at 50, 60, or will be 30, 35%. We don't know what those shifting numbers are, because the pendulum is swinging back and forth very quickly, and we just don't know, right? And we're going to have to be ultimately good with the level of change that's regular as a system for the foreseeable future. We think that the Delta virus is the last, kind of a blip in the system, but we just don't know that. We're preparing for that, preparing more for the unknown is going to be important for the next few years. And while normal budget cycles have been the norm for the last few decades, the next 2, 3, 4 years are likely going to be upside down until there is a new normal, and we don't know what that new normal is. But we do know what some of our advocacy needs to be, and we do know that we've invested significant amount of IT, and we're trying to hold for that. And I'm mentioning this only because of this budget process, and that we need to be doing absolutely everything to not return one perf dollar at all. And I think Ms. Gordon would appreciate that, right, Ms. Gordon?
Exactly.
All that's important as we control for that, for that advocacy, in how we make some of these. So I just wanted to point that out, because I am on the budget committee, I am on IESS, and I'm always picking on Ms. Gordon, and 90% of the time she has the answers, because and that's a good amount. So I just wanted to to state that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ballin. And if you give her a little time, I'm sure it'll get to 100%, right, Ms. Gordon? So Ms. Gordon, you have a comment?
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
All right.
I have one more comment I wanted to make, following up on Trustee Bella's thank you to me and my doing this budget. I want to thank the budget staff. I want to recognize the budget staff that does all the work to put this together. They didn't miss a step during the pandemic, and remotely. This was done in great style, and I want to recognize them. Our budget director, Ms. Deborah Latier, and her staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Okay, colleagues, I think that concludes our comments here. So we'll move forward with, actually, let me take a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call vote here to adopt our final 2021-22 budget. So is there a motion and a second?
I'll move to adopt the final 2020-2021 budget.
Thank you, Trustee Hoffman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Student trustee advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela. Trustee Vela. He's muted.
Okay.
Okay, Trustee Vettis.
Yes, and let's do this. If we'll give, because of technical difficulties, I will, if Trustee Vela is able to get back on here, we can open the roll vote to record that for him. But there is sufficient votes to pass the item. council, if you indulge me with that
I was
request.
just going to say, President Bettis, you don't have to close the public session if you don't. Maybe we'll just keep the public session open. I'm sure Trustee Bella will join us, and then you can complete the vote.
Okay, good enough. I'd prefer to do that since he is our budget chair and has worked probably closest with Ms. Gordon and team on this. So let's do that. We'll hold this and we'll come back to him when he's back on screen. And so let's move forward with recommendations from the Chancellor. We have 3 items up here. The first is a title change in salary allocation for the class of Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer. I guess this is what happens after you put together the successful budget process. Chancellor, can you update the board here? I know you did send us correspondence on this earlier this week, so if you can do this before we take our action.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vettis, the members of the board. It's with great enthusiasm and pride that I'd like to forward this recommendation to reclassify both in title and in salary compensation the work of Ms. Gordon to Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer for the LACD. She merits the title and responsibility, and we thank her for her service, dedicated service to this district over the many years. I recommend your approval, please.
Okay, thank you. Let's do a motion and second, and then I'll ask for discussion here. So is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the title change in salary allocation for this.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Hoffman, seconded by Trustee Fong. Colleagues, is there any discussion on this item?
Can I say something?
Yes.
As chair of the budget committee for I think 2 or 3 years on this board, I worked closely with Ms. Gordon, and I think this is well deserved. She's been with this district probably longer than anybody, except for maybe you, Trustee Moreno. And I just really appreciate all of her hard work, and this is just wonderful. So congratulations, Jeanette, and I'm really excited to support this.
Can I also add?
Of course, Trustee Moreno.
For the record, she's been here longer than I have.
Okay, my mistake. You just look older.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But yes, and to Jeanette, I mean, remember I told you, the longer you stay, who knows what happens.
Yes, you did.
For a while there, she was a target.
I don't want anybody to think that's why I stayed.
No. What you know what I mean? That it depends upon the time. All of a sudden, from nowhere to star and back down again. So welcome to the stardom again. You deserve many years of it. But it is kind of humorous when you think about the thing as a whole. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for the record, Trustee Moreno and Vice Chancellor Gordon, you both look wonderful. So, okay. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. If we can have a roll call vote.
Student Trustee Martinez, advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Absolutely. Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
And I jumped ahead of myself, Vice Chancellor Gordon, but happy to, congratulations and happy to have you there. So Trustee Vela, we kept the roll open for you for the previous budget vote. So do you want to give your vote now so we can close that item? Trustee Vela?
He's muted again.
He left again.
You left again. Okay. All right. We'll try him again later. Okay. Thank you. And again, congratulations, Vice Chancellor. Okay. Next, approval of board revisions, Chapter 10, Article 3. This was an item that was included in past informatives of the board. And it does have the recommendation of the Chancellor for approval. Is there any additional context that you wanted to provide for this item? This is continuing modernization update within the California Community College League, and encouraged consistent formatting included in our new board documents programs as well. So Chancellor, any other context necessary for this? And colleagues, any questions on this before we take our motion?
This particular rule under Chapter 10, Article 3 would expand the committee formally for both presidential searches and the chancellor search to include deans and our classified supervisors. So we welcome that and their voice. So we encourage your approval, please.
Okay. And then I alluded to, what I alluded to was actually incorporated also in item number 3 here. So, but colleagues, if I see no other hands, can I ask for a motion and a second on this item?
So moved.
Motion by Buelna, second by Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Martinez, advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna,
Yes.
trustee Fong,
Yes.
trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
trustee Moreno,
Yes.
trustee Vela,
Yes.
trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Vela, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Trustee, we left the roll open for you, since you're the budget chair, to record your vote for the approval of the budget. So let me go back to that item. And if you would like to vote, register your vote for the budget, you can do it now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I would like for the record to say that yes, I'm a yes vote on adopting the final budget.
Okay.
So noted. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And we will now officially close the public hearing for the budget, and the budget is approved unanimously by the board. Thank you
very much.
Okay. Now let's move on to, we're going to take these up by items together. These are items under the Chancellor recommendations, CC, items number 3 and 4, their approval of board policies, Chapter 2, and board policies, Chapter 6. Can I have a motion to approve these items? A motion in a second, I should say. Thank you, Trustee. Thank you, Trustee Vela, for the motion and the second. Roll call vote, please.
Student trustee advisory vote Martinez,
Yes.
trustee Buelna,
Yes.
trustee Fong,
Yes.
trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hoffman,
Yes, and can I just ask a quick question while I'm yes voting? Are these adopted from the CCLC
Yes.
templates? Okay, thank you. That's what
Yes, sir.
President Reyes was speaking to earlier.
I was, sorry,
you.
Trustee.
Yeah,
But we
just wanted
questioned
to
each
clarify.
one.
I'm sorry?
But we questioned each one.
No, I understand. Thanks.
I'm just kidding. I'm just.
Yes, trustees, when these come forward for future reference, when these come forward, they're all consistently going to follow that format, and also they will be positioned inside of the board documents program to be searchable and connected to all of our work here. So
Great. And I think it's required for accreditation, so I'm glad we're doing this. Thank
yep,
you.
we're doing it all.
Yes.
Okay.
that's a yes. Trustee Hoffman,
Yes, that's a yes.
trustee Moreno,
Yes.
trustee Vela,
Yes.
trustee Vettis.
Yes. Okay, those items pass unanimously. Now we're going to move forward to item number 5. This is, and this will be conducted very similarly to what we did at our last meeting. So first, we're going to authorize the suspension of Rule 2418, and then we're going to authorize the revision of Board Policy 2900. And colleagues, if you remember last time we adopted this, there was no officially FDA approved vaccination. There is now. And with that Food and Drug Administration update, it brings us forward to make some revisions of our board policy, and that's what's before us. The board rule as listed is very self-explanatory. And if I can ask Chancellor Rodriguez or Deputy Chancellor Nish to comment on the specific sections of the changes that are here.
Thank you, Mr. Vettis. For your consideration this afternoon is a revision of Board Policy 2900 that the board adopted back in August. So thank you. In red there, you could see what we are recommending. I have both the General Counsel and the Deputy Chancellor who are available to answer any questions that you might have. But this is indeed informed by other jurisdictions, other public jurisdictions. It is informed by our leadership in this area, by listening to our employee groups, by providing what we believe will be a higher level of assurance of both health and safety of our college campuses for those who access our facilities. So we're asking the board as a condition of employment to physically access any district building, classroom, library, gymnasium facility, or other indoor setting that employees will present proof that they've been fully vaccinated. So we ask the same for our students as well. There are exemptions related to religious and our medical purposes or reasons. Those have to be vetted and indeed approved, but there are exemptions to this. But we're asking the board to take a stronger stance that we believe will allow for a stronger assurance of health and safety of our employees and our students. So you see the operative language there, and we are asking for your approval this evening. So that's where it stands. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. I did want to add a couple pieces for the record, and I see at least one hand up, but I'll go around and give everybody an opportunity to discuss this item. First of all, colleagues, I do want to let you know that there has been challenges statewide for request of medical and religious exemptions. I believe there's a story I just saw in the news briefs today that talked about a particular chiropractor in San Diego issuing 500 exemption requests for not using masks. And I know there's a number of religious organizations that have been formed recently that are very particular about providing a context for religious exemption. Our policy here intends to indicate that when medical and religious exemptions are granted, there are very specific reasons given, but that does not preclude those individuals from producing proof of a negative test for COVID-19. So while they may be able to exercise some space and exemptions, there is a responsibility to continue to ensure that they are negative with COVID. In addition, there are certain timetables for implementation. I think we're, as you know, colleagues, I think in the middle of the summer, we were down to just, almost no hospitalizations per week. And to move there to what we're experiencing with the Delta variant, the speed in which to allow our technology and computer systems to be able to adopt and handle these things or have to undergo a very fast process. Some of this process is going to occur obviously at after the start of the school year and school session, I should say, actually is a better way to say it. But very soon our employee computer system and our student information system will be able to hold and manage these things. And Chancellor and the Deputy Chancellor, if there's questions about sort of timetable and projections for when implementation will be taking place is asked of by other trustees, we can certainly update them. They're moving quickly, working fast, and have already been in the process of working since the last resolutions that we passed in August. So with that, let me do a round of conversations and discussion, dialogues, questions, etc. Before we take an official vote on this item. The authorization to suspend the board rule comes purely because this is a fast moving scenario. I believe like within a week of our policy being passed, we had FDA approval of a vaccine. So those kinds of quick and fast moving items are the reasons why we're suspending rules in order to allow for immediate adoption and implementation of new policies here. So just wanted to comment there on that. Okay, with that, colleagues, don't worry about raising your hand. We're going to run through everybody here. And let's kick this off with Trustee Henderson. Actually, let's go to the student trustee first. So student trustee Martinez, do you have comments, questions?
Yes, hello. I have one question. So, regardless, okay, so it's going to be, if this is passed, it's going to be mandatory that faculty and students, in order to physically access any of our resources on campus, must be vaccinated. And if, they're not vaccinated due to religious or health reasons, then they will be subjected to a COVID test regularly. My question is, are we going to have those, even though that everyone is vaccinated, are we still going to have regular COVID testing? Or because everyone is vaccinated, we will no longer be COVID testing? Because as we all know, the COVID vaccine doesn't mean that you're not going to get COVID at all, or that you're not going to get, the Delta variant if you've already gotten, previous variant or what may have you. So if the case is that there will be no testing for those that are vaccinated, I would advocate that regardless of vaccination status, that we do still have testing, just to ensure the safety for not only our students, but our faculty and our staff. Thank you.
Deputy Chancellor, can you, I see you here, can you
Let me ask, thank you, Mr. Bettis. Yeah, let me ask Dr. Nish to weigh in. She's our lead on the rolling out and operational aspects of this board policy. Dr. Nish?
Thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, and thank you, Student Trustee Martinez. I agree with you. Best practice is regular testing regardless of vaccination status. We will have testing available at all campuses at least 2 to 3 times a week throughout the semester, and any student or staff member, any employee may avail themselves of that testing. Those that will be required to test, of course, will be those that are not fully vaccinated and are using exemptions. But even someone who is fully vaccinated may at any point in time test free of no charge. So we will have that available for students and all employees.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor. And this, the expenses of those will be covered by our HERF funding, correct?
Yes, but most of this is actually covered by insurance. The billing of the testing company first bills for insurance. There is a sort of a stopgap limit for each campus, which of course can be paid with HERF.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Student Trustee, for your question. Next, let's move to Trustee Henderson.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Next, we'll go to Trustee Vella.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Martinez. My only issue with this is the breakthrough cases, and just what are we going to do if vaccinated people get it, and what's our plan? And that's my question. So what is our plan if vaccinated people get it? Are they're not going to be allowed to be in the colleges? Are they not going to be allowed to teach? What's our policy with that? Thank you.
Dr. Nish, please jump in.
Thank you, Chancellor. We actually have a procedure that has been in place for over a year now for exactly that same scenario. Whether you're vaccinated or not, if you do test positive, of course, you go immediately into isolation. In the case of a faculty member, we would have to look at the specifics. It may very well require hiring a sub. It may require that the class goes remote for 2 weeks during the isolation period. Of course, it will depend on the specifics, but we have the protocol. We know what to do. So we have been doing this now for over a year. Granted, we haven't had as many courses on site as we have this fall, but we do have the good experience that we have of all the colleges of dealing with these scenarios for over a year. So we feel confident that we'll be able to work with this. There is nothing to guarantee that there won't be someone who is fully vaccinated and asymptomatic. And this goes back to Student Trustee Martinez's point. This is why we're going to strongly encourage that all employees, even if not mandated to test regularly, should test regularly. And that helps us from a public health standpoint.
Do we not mandate regularly testing because we're trying to save money, or is it because we're like impeding in people's like rights? Or why wouldn't we mandate for people that have the vaccine to also test it to see if they're negative weekly or whatever? Why don't we do that?
May I respond? Thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez. Trustee Velo, that is certainly possible. The policy as it reads does not require that. However, the delegation of authority to the Chancellor to develop the administrative procedures to support this policy could require that. You do see that the language states that the delegation of the authority to the Chancellor may include mandatory baseline testing of all employees and students who are physically accessing any indoor facilities, regardless of vaccination status. We could extend that to regular testing for all employees and students that are accessing facilities. That is possible to do in the procedure.
Thank you, Dr. Nish.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor. Next, let's go over to Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you, Board President Veras. Thank you, Dr. Nish, and thank you, Chancellor. I'm very happy to see that we have a mandatory vaccination policy. I think it fell a tiny bit short because it doesn't explicitly say all employees must be vaccinated as a condition of employment. And so I'm imagining that some employees that don't think they will be back on campus in a physical sense are not required to be vaccinated. But if we could move in that direction as well, I think that would be a good idea. And then the other thing is, are we going to get some information, Chancellor and Dr. Nish, about how this policy is going to be implemented, the timeline, and do we anticipate hiring an outside company to do all of the tracking? I know that a lot of community colleges districts are going in that direction, and there are companies out there that will do like the contact tracing. They'll process the reminders when someone needs a booster shot, and they'll get you all set up. Are we moving in that direction, or are we trying to do this internally ourselves?
Yeah, no, let me begin and then I'll ask Dr. Nish to fill in. No, we will not do this ourselves. We will be contracting this out. We have identified an agency that can do that, that other districts around the state that are large multi-college has used successfully. So we will be doing that. With respect to timeline, we're looking at mid-September, and then again for October as sort of at least some starting points. But let me ask Dr. Nish to weigh in with more specifics. But we do have, we believe, a solution here, and the rollout is imminent and forthcoming. Dr. Nish?
Thank you, Chancellor. And in direct response to your question, Trustee Hoffman, the policy language before you states, as a condition of employment, and that applies to all employees. If you adopt the policy revision as presented this evening, this is mandatory for all employees, regardless of their specific workplace schedule, regardless of how remote or not remote they are working. This would be for all employees. It is a little different when you look at the policy language for students. For students, it is as a condition to physically access any facility, whether you're an online student, a hybrid student, a remote student. So that's the nuance in the way this language is presented. But if you adopt the language as written, it would be for all employees mandatory that they are either fully vaccinated or that they properly have approved exemptions. To the Chancellor's point, yes, we already have a contract with a testing firm through a piggyback contract through the Foundation for the California Community Colleges with a subcontractor vendor that provides the entire portal system. As you mentioned, messaging, keeping information, changing information for boosters, et cetera. We are now in the process of configuring that portal. And we'll very soon be able to start launching this, where all of our students and our employees will be messaged with how to go into that portal and set up their accounts and get their testing started, as well as putting their vaccination information in.
Thank you. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you for clarifying the policy. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee. Next, Trustee Moreno.
Yes, couple of questions, or maybe more. How about visitors to campus? I mean, how are we gonna know whether somebody is in the building? If they may not be students, they may be visitors. Does anyone have an answer?
Yes, Dr. Nish, go ahead, please. We consider this, Mr. Moreno, and we have quite a few visitors, contractors, et cetera. So we do have a response. Dr.
Well, you
Nish?
have a lot of people showing up on campus who are not enrolled or employees.
That is
How about-
correct, Trustee
How
Moreno.
about, excuse me, how about also all these sporting events we have held in gyms and so forth, that you have people coming and observing the games that we have?
That is correct, Trustee Moreno. For visitors or guests, they are not covered under this particular policy to be required to be fully vaccinated or to have an exemption and be tested regularly. They will be required to do screening. That is a health order, so they must do screening, and either they will do it online through the portal, which allows for guests to do so, or they will have to do it when they arrive on site. But all visitors will be required to go through the screening process to assure that they are not actively exhibiting any symptoms, and they will be required to be fully masked if they are indoors at all. For spectators for sporting events, this is allowable. If indoors, the restrictions start at 1,000 persons indoors. Outdoors, the restrictions start at 10,000 persons outdoors. So we're working with our colleges right now on guidelines for spectators to sporting events. But we do anticipate that we will have spectators, that we will recommend masking even if outdoors, and we will recommend spacing definitely, whether indoors or outdoors. But
You'll
there are no
recommend-
specific protocols.
Recommending masking for outdoors, not requiring masking.
Correct, sir, because that is not a health order at this time.
That's right.
Deputy
So,
Chancellor, to just
well-
be clear, it is a health order for outdoor over 10,000.
What was that last comment?
There is a public health order for outdoor events over 10,000.
What do you mean by over? What's under? What happens
Over
under
10,000.
10,000?
Over 10,000, there is no health order. So under 10,000, there is not a health order, but there are recommendations to obviously practice as safely and be comfortable. But the health order is, like, for example, not that any of our, like, if we were to have some event at Weingart Stadium with over 10,000 individuals attending, everyone there will be required to wear a mask.
Yeah, I understand. Well, so are there any other in our, I know we used to have a requirement for a TB test for all of our employees. I trust we still do that.
Yes, sir.
So that's a requirement.
Yes, as a condition of employment. That's correct.
So they all have to have a TB test.
Yes, sir.
Who monitors that?
I believe that's through our HR. Is that not, Dr. Nish?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and then every so often you have to get retested and you have to resubmit your.
And that's policed fairly well.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, it's not my experience. It's 40, 50 years in the district. But here's the, are there any other vaccinations required? At one time, I remember going to elementary school, you had to have certain kinds of vaccinations.
That's
Remember those? You remember what they were?
Yeah, I do. The measles,
What were they?
rubella, chickenpox, but no, sir, we're not governed by the same education code as K-12. So those institutions do have to have required vaccinations.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm just trying to get some bearing as to whether or not we're entering an era that is foreign to us. I don't want to establish precedents that has government putting a big P on our chest, telling us whether we've been vaccinated or not. So I'm deadly against that idea. But I do have a concern. Well, I trust everyone's taking a look at this to think about the logistics of it all. But there is another problem. We all know the statistics bear out is that the minorities in our community are the ones who are not receiving. There are lesser vaccinations among minorities than among majority white people. And that automatically creates a different situation. Because if the percentage rate of vaccinations among our primary source of students is far lower than what is average, that adds to the complications we have in trying to get ourselves on our feet again relative to enrollment. But I trust you've all thought about this and its implications, because if you were to evaluate this as it affects the general population, you realize statistically that Hispanics and Blacks are not receiving the vaccination at the same rate that white community is. So we haven't put in place something that disadvantages a particular group. However, having said that, there are, of course, protections. I thought taking the vaccination was a protection. And then we discovered maybe it's not. Now you have to have a booster. Maybe it's not. In either instance, it seems somewhat uncertain and kind of, the sky is falling approach, which I'm really concerned about. However, I'd like to have these two measures separated so I can vote like I did with the initial one and vote like I did with the second item, so that I have still concerns about the mandate to vaccinate. And I'm not sure they've been set aside by what I've heard so far. However, I represent a very minority group on this board. So, but I'd like to have the measures separated so I can register my objection to the second one.
I'm sorry, Trustee Moreno, the item is suspension of the board rule for immediate adoption, and the second item is actually the board policy. So
I thought we had approved. Didn't we take a vote on the same subject last time we met?
Yes, sir, we did. But that's not the mask mandate is not being discussed.
Right.
This is purely the vaccination component.
Oh, this is purely the vaccination component.
Right.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me, student trustee, I see your hand, but let me get through everybody, give everybody a first chance to speak, and I'll come back to the second chances. So let me jump over to Trustee Fong. Questions or comments?
Thank you so much, President Bettis, and thank you to my colleagues for all the comments. My only comment is that we would make sure that we have accessibility to vaccinations at multiple points within the various campuses, and to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for anybody to get vaccinated. But I fully support this policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fong. And I would only add that Mr. Bettis and members of the board, in addition to that, Mr. Fong, plentiful supply, respirators, masks, hand sanitization, equipment to clean, sanitize. So there's quite a bit behind this policy. So I wanted to reiterate those investments that we're making.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, Trustee Buona, questions or comments?
I just want to address to Trustee Moreno that he got his demographics on minority majority upside down. Just wanted to make sure and point that out. Other than that,
what was that? How was I wrong?
I think that the groups that you identified as minority are now up to 70 to 80% of the majority.
Oh, I see. Well, you're right. I'm relative to our state accordingly, but I'm not sure the United States.
Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and a lot of other states too. But Trustee Moreno, you and I go back and forth on this, and I couldn't let that go.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks. Stand corrected.
Okay.
Okay. And I believe I'm last on the list before I go around. I did want to indicate, and let me do this because I know the governor today announced that just about 80% of Californians have received, are fully vaccinated or partially vaccinated. And so I did, I'm on the California COVID website right now, and I just wanted to read a few statistics of vaccination penetration, because those are, certainly concerns to make sure that we can be a source of being helpful rather than hurtful in terms of people's process. I think obviously the testing and to encourage people to get vaccinated is very important. But I will say, so Asian Americans in the state of California, they've received 16% of the vaccinations, make up 13.1% of the population. People who identify themselves as Black have received 4.1% of the vaccines administered and make up 5.7% of the population. Latinos, and it is the group that has still the furthest to go, but those that are eligible have received 29% of the vaccines administered, make up 39% of the eligible population, in comparison to people who identify as white, who receive 34%, but make up 38% of the vaccine eligible population. The Latino community in the state also is amongst the youngest, so they tend to have bigger groups of people that are not eligible for a vaccine yet. But I think part of the scenario, when you look at statistically vaccines, they do work. And clearly they are keeping people from severe hospitalizations, and that's what's important. So as we deal with the many of the things that the Deputy Chancellor responded to in those questions, and they still continue to be very important questions, and there's instances of breakthrough, but we're talking about less than 1% of breakthrough to severe hospitalization. And that statistic is holding very firm. So when it comes to our students, I will say this: there has also been a level of disruption that COVID and the Delta variant as well has provided to our school community. And whether in the future there is a need to do an additional booster or whatever, the clear point is that vaccination is by far the single most important thing our communities can do to protect themselves. And so the numbers are, and even if somebody does receive COVID, it's much better to have a mild illness than to be fully vaccinated on a respiratory machine. I did want to add, and I know this is not something that's here, but this is something that's now becoming a readily important conversation point throughout, and that is the cost of unvaccinated people to insurance, to the state, to entities like ourselves. Fact of the matter is severe hospitalization can cost up to $50,000 a day, and when you see these stories and when you see the reports of people saying they wish they took the vaccination in a hospital bed where it's already too late, I think we've got to move in the direction of doing as much as possible. So besides continuing the testing process and we provided incentives. Let's not forget, colleagues, we in this district have provided incentives for people to vaccinate. And those incentives include everything from bookstore cash certificates, awards, gift certificates, et cetera. And those had marginal impacts. And so, but to ensure that we minimize the disruption, the more we get back to a normal process, I think the better off we're all going to be. And as it stands right now, nothing's more effective of keeping people health safe than the vaccine itself. So let me go back to the top of the list. I see the student trustee with her hand raised. And if there's any other individuals that trustees that would like to make an additional comment, if you can raise your virtual hand, since everybody's had an opportunity to speak on the matter. So student trustee Martinez, additional comment?
Thank you. Yes, I just had a few more questions with the discussion going on. I just a few more things came to mind. So I understand how we will be going about visitors on our campus, but in terms of students, how will we know if a student on our facility is vaccinated or not? What if we have students that come onto our facility that are not vaccinated, that are maybe utilizing the library or whatever it may be? How are we going to go about keeping track of that? Is that something that we've thought about?
Dr. Nish, go ahead, take that, please.
Yes, thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, and thank you, Student Trustee Martinez. Yes, we will know in two different ways. One, when you are cleared with a negative test, you will actually receive a QR code that you can display on any mobile device and can be scanned. And so we will use that QR code in certain areas where scanning may be advisable, such as a library, right? Where students may be going that aren't registered for a class. And secondly, we will have full information as the employer. So we'll know from student ID numbers and employee ID numbers that people have tested that or are fully vaccinated and what those results are. So we can run reports in real time at any point in time. And then we can distribute those reports as appropriate.
Okay, great. And I have another question. In terms of our students that then are not going to be vaccinated due to religious exemption or medical exemption, if they have a class that is in person, of course, you are going to need to be vaccinated to be on our campuses. What are we going to do to accommodate them to ensure that they're still going to have a spot in that class, or are we going to ensure that we move them over to a different class, or how are we going to ensure that we are supporting those specific groups of students?
They will still have a spot in their class. They will have mandatory testing minimally once a week in order to keep the spot in the class.
Okay.
Plus they're masking, correct?
And
Plus they're masking, yes.
okay. And then is the incentive for being fully vaccinated still going to be ongoing now that we are going to, if this is passed, that we are going to be mandating vaccination, or if this is passed, will we no longer have that incentive be provided?
My understanding is that we have received a grant that allows for $150. We received $250,000, which suggests to me that we're not quite yet at our limit. So there's still an incentive to be vaccinated and to receive the cash bonus. So please get the word out.
Okay,
so Chancellor,
great.
If we could say that it'll exist as long as the grant has funds.
That's correct.
Okay.
But hopefully the incentive is to be safe, healthy, and well. But of course, cash gets you to the finish line.
And then just my last question is, what does the, I don't know if you may have already said this already, but what does the timeline look for this? Because of course, we've already started the semester and we already do have students on campus actively. So when do we expect to have 100% vaccination on our campuses?
Okay, Dr. Nish?
That's a great question, Student Trustee Martinez. If the board takes a decision to approve this policy as written this evening, this is now different. This is now telling students and employees that they must be fully vaccinated. We want to offer those that are not fully vaccinated the time to become fully vaccinated. So we will start the process of testing and registering vaccination status and allowing for exemptions as soon as possible, no later than mid-September. But by mid-October, and we're looking at October 18th, you must be fully vaccinated or have your exemption and be testing on at least a weekly basis. So we're giving folks a little bit of time, a little over 6 weeks, if they're not fully vaccinated, to get in and get it done. But we're going to roll out the process of the testing and all of the documentation as soon as we have our settings set up. And we think that that will be within less than 2 weeks.
Okay, great. I believe that answers all my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Bona, I see your hand.
Yeah, just a few slight things. I recommend, letting people know that the amount of the cash money that they'll get will not be going up. We wouldn't want folks to think that they can game the system, because that would just literally be silly. But you just never know. And I'm not sure if that was intended, but I would just recommend against it. I think what I've heard from some faculty and staff is that they're concerned, and I haven't heard this addressed specifically, but maybe I missed something. We've been going on for a while. Is the testing self-reported, or is it a requirement? Vice Chancellor Nish, Deputy Chancellor Nish.
It is a requirement. You cannot simply say I tested negative. you will have to test with our testing provider at one of our sites.
Okay. And okay, I think why do some folks think that it's the and the reason I say this, it goes back to kind of when we were going after the mission statement at Pierce College. Why do some folks think, and this goes to our communication strategy, why do they think that it's self-reporting? Are they, yeah, is there a rumor mill, or is it our communication? What's your, why do you think? What's your thought?
I think it's confusion between the self check-in process and what we've heard about self-attestation. We have a self-health screening that you must do online prior to accessing any of our facilities. That's been in place for some months now. So anyone that is coming onto our facilities needs to go online and do their self-symptom check. But you've heard the term self-attestation that's being used by a lot of different agencies where people will self-attest to their vaccination status. We are not recommending simply self-attesting. We will be requiring documentation. So it isn't just a self-attestation. There has to be evidence of actual the documentation of your vaccination status.
Thank you. Is there physical, actual testing occurring on each of the 9 campuses right now?
At this minute, no. There has been no. There is one college that I don't believe that is testing yet for their athletes, but all the others have been testing for athletes. And it's the same vendor that we brought on board for our student athletes for testing, which is a requirement for them to be doing scrimmages and competition. It is that same vendor that we'll be using for the testing for all of our employees and all of our students. I believe that Southwest has not yet started that testing. I believe all the other 8 colleges have been doing that testing for some months now.
Okay, so we're not going to have testing on the physical campuses until when?
At the very latest, the week of September 13th, but I would like to make sure that Southwest starts their testing before that. And we can start the testing as we can bring that up on Southwest as soon as tomorrow. All of the colleges have now identified a specific room where we will have the vendor on site 2 to 3 times a week to conduct the testing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Trustee. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, let me ask for a motion and a second on this General Counsel quick check-in here. Do I need it? Can I take these motions together, or do I need to separate? I have to first suspend the board rule, correct?
That's correct, President Bettis. Let's do it a separate, then we'll suspend the board rule, and then that'll take you into the second item. So do them, you're correct, do them separately.
Trustee Bettis, I think you have one more question.
Well, let me do this. Let me suspend the board item, and I'll take, because I imagine the question's on the actual policy, but let me start the process of suspending the board items. So trustees, can I ask for a motion and a second?
I move to authorize the suspension of board rule 2418.
Okay, motion by Trustee Vella. I saw a second by Trustee Buelna. Roll call vote on that item.
Student Trustee Advisory Vote Martinez.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Bettis.
Yes. Okay, item passes. Student Trustee, you had a comment about the board policy before we take our vote?
Yes. I just had a question for clarification. So on all of our campuses, we do have vaccination on site already. Yes.
I believe
because if we are,
except for Southwest College, which is getting set up, but they will have them at all the campuses. Yes.
If I may clarify, Southwest is testing, In terms of vaccination, we have had vaccination centers at all of our campuses with different vendors, different providers at different points in time, but all of them have been participating in hosting vaccination centers, and that will continue. We will look to provide an opportunity for all students and employees to actually vaccinate at any of our campuses.
So then throughout the month of September, because the deadline for vaccination is mid-September, as I believe you mentioned, Dr. Nish. So then we will have vaccination available on all of our campuses during September, because if we are asking that of our students, I believe that it is right that we provide the vaccination for them on our campuses.
You are correct.
Great. And then in terms of testing, so is Southwest going to be the only campus that is still in need of the testing?
No, we just they
it...
just haven't initiated it yet, but they will.
Okay, so then all of our campuses are going to have vaccination as well as testing. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Trustee Ballna, was that a leftover hand or a current hand? Okay.
There you go.
Wonderful. All right. So with that, can I get a motion and a second for the revised board policy 2900?
I'll move to approve board policy 2900.
I saw, let me take this as Trustee Ballna raised his hand. Trustee Hoppin, would you second that?
Sure.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Advisory Martinez,
Yes.
Trustee Ballna,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
No.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
The item passes. Thank you, colleagues, and the Deputy Chancellor and Chancellor are available for implementation questions as we proceed here. So the policy is in place now. Next, we're on to item DD, notice, reports, and informatives. There is one notice. No action is required at this moment, and that's essentially for Board Policies Chapter 3, continuing with our update as we did today and as we did last meeting here. So that is on for notice. Next is EE, announcements and indications of future proposed actions by members of the Board of Trustees. Colleagues, we have our Independence Day event that's coming up that was mentioned earlier. Is there any other events, actions, or activities to be announced or proposed? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close that item and we'll move forward to public comments. These are for items not on the agenda. If I can, I know there was no one signed up, but I wanted to give a last opportunity for individuals that are in the audience to make a comment on matters not on the agenda. And if you're interested, please raise your virtual hand if you're in the meeting here. Okay, seeing none. Oh, we got one. I was about to close that here. Mr. McDowell, if you can move him over, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Okay, I requested to move him over. He should be joining shortly.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so I just want to go step back. I know this is the third hour of the meeting, so I'll only take 1 minute. But I want to go back to an item that you already voted on to congratulate Vice Chancellor Gordon, because I think that she's earned the respect of all of us that we worked with her. I've worked with her for, 40 years. And we didn't always agree, but that's a good thing. People agree all the time. That means one is doing all the thinking, and she's not guilty of that. I'll tell you that for sure. But she's worked very hard. When she put together the budget that you approved, I'll guarantee you that it met all the state requirements. It followed the minimum base funding that came out of the DBC approved by the board. She doesn't stray from the policy or the procedures. I think that Trustee Moreno said that the future could be tough. This is the best year for our budget ever. But beyond that, it's going to be tough and tougher until hold harmless. And I don't think there's a better person we could have than the Vice Chancellor Gordon to be at the helm to take care of the budget. And so I just want to thank her for all the hard work, and the staff as well. And thank you, board members, for making a process to deal with these issues with safety. So thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Any other requests to address the board here and public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that section of public comments. I would like to report in item GG, reports of actions taken in closed session. The board took no further actions that the Brown Act requires to be reported. So note that for the record. And we have consent calendar items regarding closed session matters. We have 2 items on here. We will take each of these individually. The first is HH1, suspension of classified permanent employee. Colleagues, may I have a motion and a second on this item?
Excuse me, Mr. Vettis, did you say suspension? Item 1 is dismissal. Excuse me, sir.
Oh, you know what? Hold on.
Item 2 is suspension.
I have this flipped around on my report here. So you are correct, Chancellor. So let me do this. Let me reset it on the public agenda. It is item number 1, dismissal of classified permanent employee, employee number 1015176. Is there a motion and a second for this item?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Vella.
This is for the suspension. Are you correct? Is that what we're dealing with now?
This is the dismissal right now.
This is.
It was my mistake. I read suspension earlier. It is the dismissal.
Oh, the dismissal.
And I restated the employee number for the record to be accurate.
Okay.
Okay. So Trustee Buona, thank you for the second. Can I have a roll call vote on this action?
Trustee Buona,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vella,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. Okay, item passes. Next, we will go to item number 2HH, which is the suspension of classified permanent employee, employee number 801596. Can I ask for a motion and a second? Okay, colleagues, if there's no motion and second, we cannot act on this item.
Motion.
Thank you, Trustee Buona. And I will second it for the purposes of the roll call vote here. Roll call, please.
Trustee Buona,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
No.
Trustee Vella,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. And for the public and for all of us, obviously these items for employee discipline issues are amongst the hardest we do and the most difficult. But I think people have heard me say this before. We tend to only hire one employee, but anybody who gets fired or disciplined tends to come through this board of trustees. So, but it is also very difficult each and every service that it takes place, and it happens for reasons that have to be justified to the board in order to take these actions. So, so with that, both the matters there are approved, and we are now at adjournment. If there is no objections to adjourn, we will conclude our meeting here at 6:16. And thank you for all your comments, feedback, and questions today. Colleagues, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Water.
Thank you. Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.